Hello and welcome back to another FPL team selection video. This is going out on Friday morning / afternoon, and if you're watching it right now, close to it being released, remember the deadline is tonight. Brighton are playing Southampton on Friday night, which means we do have a 6:30 Friday night deadline, so make sure you make any transfers or substitutes before that. Now, looking back at last week for game week 12, it was a pretty average week for myself with 50 points. I think the average was about 49, and as you can see by the bench, it was, it could have been a lot better. Pedro Porro picked up a 14-pointer in Spurs' 4-0 win over Manchester City, and unfortunately I benched him. I'm not really like obviously I'm disappointed with the decision because he obviously picked up 14 points, but I don't really feel like it was a bad decision. Playing against Manchester City away as a defender is never really something that you want to be having in your starting 11. I think the only frustrating thing about it is the fact that I've had Porro since the start of the season. A lot of people, have taken him out by now. He's not the most popular within the FPL community, and I've played him every single week and he's picked up 2 to 4 points for like the last 8 weeks or something. And then obviously the one time that you go and bench him, he picks up 14 points. So it's very frustrating, but it is what it is. It could have been a 64 pointer and a really nice week for myself. Unfortunately, I ended up with a small red arrow. I think it was about 200,000 places I dropped, down to 2.4 million, but I could have really shot myself right back up if I had played Porro, and especially when you look at the points that my defence actually got. 8 Nuri, 2, Lewis 0, and then Digne never even started with 1, and I believe he started every other game of the season, so it really just sums up having Luca Digne in your team, because he always just seems to turn to absolute mush as soon as you bring him in. The rest of the team was pretty poor. Over half my points came from Salah this week, which means the rest of my 10 players only picked up 24 points in total, which was horrendous. When Flecken's your highest scoring player, that's when you know something's wrong. First clean sheet of the season for him and a 9-pointer, which was ideal. Everyone else 2, 3, 2, 3, so... not great. Hoping to improve on that this week. We have one transfer used, and let's take a look at it. So I did Semenyo to Saka this week, and obviously Semenyo picked up another yellow card last week, which means he's suspended for game week 13. And ideally, I was, looking to keep him. I've kept him all the way through since like game week 4 or something, until this nice run of fixtures. I have now sold him, and I'll explain why in a little second, but I wanted to get Saka in against West Ham. He was planned to come in next week for potentially Mbeumo. I've brought him in a week early for the West Ham fixture, hoping that he can do quite nicely. But I've not lost any money on Semenyo. I had no value in Semenyo, so selling him now, it doesn't affect me too much. The plan is to bring him back in just 2 weeks' time. So as I said, no value held in him, so I don't really have to worry about losing 0.2, 0.3 million in value to buy him back in a few weeks. But the idea was I wanted Saka in as soon as possible because of how good his fixtures are. You can see down the bottom: West Ham, Man U, Fulham, Everton, Palace. You expect Saka to do quite well. He's got 12 returns in 12 games as well so far this season, and I had so much money in the bank where I was able, where I kind of just wanted to have him in instead of one of your cheaper options. So obviously I've got Salah, Palmer and Mbeumo, all with nice fixtures this week. So they are, well, Salah not so much, but it's still Salah. So they weren't coming out for Saka. So it was between Semenyo and Rodgers, and obviously both of them, obviously with Semenyo being suspended, doesn't have a fixture this week. Rodgers doesn't have a great fixture this week against Chelsea. So I was tempted to bench. The idea was if I did bench Semenyo, then I would have had to play Rodgers against Chelsea, which I didn't really want to do. So that's why I made the transfer, and I didn't want to take out Rodgers just yet. I did want Semenyo for the future fixtures, but Rodgers has really nice fixtures over the next few. Brentford and Southampton, both at home, are 2 of the worst defences in the league. So I wanted to keep Rodgers, which meant it was just obvious that Semenyo was to come out. Also, in terms of price changes, Semenyo was due to drop this week. He hasn't dropped just yet, but he was due to drop, and I made the transfer last Saturday night before Saka went up in price. Definitely very risky because obviously there was European games as well with Saka playing against Sporting, but I made the transfer last Saturday night and got the price rise for Saka. He is due to rise in price again either this week or either tonight or over the weekend. So we're talking potentially a 0.3 million swing from moving Semenyo onto Saka. So that's why I made the transfer and didn't just bench Semenyo. The plan is to bring Semenyo back in game week 15 against Ipswich, because I do really like him still as a pick. Ipswich, West Ham, Man United, he could do really well in those fixtures, so probably going to keep Rodgers for the foreseeable. So the plan could potentially be to move Mbeumo back to Semenyo in game week 15, so it means I'll keep Mbeumo for game week 13 and game week 14, and then move on to Semenyo in game week 15, so that'll give me a midfield of Salah, Palmer, Saka, and then Rodgers, Semenyo again. So this is how the defence is currently looking for this week. Once again, we have Flecken in goals. Hopefully another clean sheet for him against Leicester at home. Hopefully we can start to see a change in his points, and he can start to kind of at least return for us rather than constant 2-3 pointers. Porro's playing this week, of course. Hopefully he can get another 14 pointer. I don't know, like Porro's one of those ones that has just been frustrating all season. Hopefully he can get something at least this week, because it's very frustrating. He picked up a 14 pointer when I've had him the entire season and not really got much from him. Ait Nouri and Moreno, two very nice defenders for this week. It is, a plan to, it was the plan to keep the Nottingham Forest guys for this fixture. After this week, Moreno's probably just going to be third in the bench for the foreseeable future, because Forest don't have great fixtures and he's not owned enough that he's going to drop in price, so I'm happy enough to keep him there. Only 4.4 million as well, and then I'll wait until I've got a spare transfer 1 week and move him on. Ait Nouri obviously more than capable of doing something attacking wise, and also a potential clean sheet on the cards against Bournemouth. We'll see what happens. So we've got a full back line and goalkeeper with home fixtures this week, so hopefully we can actually get a nice week of defensive returns, because I think it feels like it's been weeks since I've had anyone in my defence do well. So fingers crossed for that one. In midfield is where we're starting to look really, really nice. We've got the three premium midfielders, and obviously Mbeumo, who's playing against Leicester as well. Salah against Man City. We've got Palmer against Aston Villa, and obviously Saka against West Ham after taking Haaland out last week. So yeah, really nice fixtures for these guys. Obviously Salah more than capable of doing something against Man City. We do have Cole Palmer as the captaincy this week. If you want to know why, make sure to go check out the captaincy video from yesterday after you've watched this one, but Palmer is going to be my choice. Salah is going to be the vice captain, not that really matters too much. Rodgers is hitting the bench, as I mentioned. Bringing Saka in against West Ham just felt more like smart to take Semenyo out, and then obviously bench Rodgers instead of playing him against Chelsea. So hopefully that works out. Saka is due to rise in price again this week, so again, like I said, a 0.3 million swing by making that move. It just made a little bit more sense than keeping Semenyo on the bench. And then up top we have our three strikers in Isak, Wood and Jimenez. Obviously Isak was quite disappointing on Monday night with only a 2-pointer from him, but another chance for him against Crystal Palace this week. Hopefully he can do quite well. I mentioned with the Nottingham Forest guys that I wanted to keep them through this. They probably are, a bit differential right now, with everyone on wildcard 12 not going anywhere near them, and a lot of people taking Wood out for the likes of João Pedro and your Welbecks and stuff with better fixtures. So we're keeping Wood for the Ipswich game. Hopefully he can do quite nicely. And then obviously we've got Raul Jimenez here against Spurs. He is very clearly the one, like the weak link in the starting 11 this week. He has a pretty tough fixture away from home as well to Spurs, and I was very, very close to taking a -4 this week and going for like a Welbeck or a João Pedro up top. I did kind of want that at some point, but I decided just to leave it and see what happens with him. Obviously Spurs are struggling with defensive injuries right now. Van de Ven's out. I think Romero's still out as well. And obviously Vicario picked up a fractured ankle against Man City. So it's going to be, two backup defenders and a backup goalkeeper in goals. So if there's any week that Jimenez could do well against Spurs, it's going to be this week. So I am playing him. Hopefully he can outscore whatever Brighton get tonight. And some of the Brighton strikers don't do too well. I'm finding myself in a little bit of a struggle with upcoming fixtures for a lot of my team. Wood has Man City next week, which isn't ideal. Jimenez I don't think has a great fixture next week either. And Mbeumo doesn't have a fantastic fixture. I'm going to keep Mbeumo because he can score in basically any game anyway. So potentially a striker transfer for me next week to bring in either João Pedro or Welbeck. I'll decide more towards that time. But no hits from me this week, just a free transfer, and that is how the team is looking. Let me know what you think down in the comments section. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you are new. Good luck for game week 13, and I'll see you all in the next one.